Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Expedient customer story. And today we have a very special guest. We have.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, AJ. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Byrider as an organization and what you guys do?
Yeah, it's actually been a fantastic journey. I've been here almost a year and I've learned so much. Byrider has that long history. We just celebrated our 35th anniversary as a company. And over the 35 years, we have helped consumers get into vehicles almost greater than 1.5 million times. So a lot of wheels out on the road. What the company was founded by Jim Duvall, and what Jim found as his challenge, or what he was trying to do, is help out a unique consumer in the marketplace, help them get into a vehicle. And what he did differently in the buy here, pay here space was really to create a program. And this program really is designed with helping this consumer over the life of the vehicle, over the life of the loan, to continue to make their payments, really not making any money on service, and really keeping the wheels on that vehicle that they really need to conduct their day-to-day business all the time. Over the last year, the company has given rebirth as a new company. We are now Byrider franchising partners, and that really brings us with our special relationship that we have with Expedient today, with our journey going down really a technology evolution.
So you mentioned that technology evolution, and previously you guys were in an on-prem physical data center, right? So what prompted you to make a transition from a physical data center to the cloud? What really prompted all that?
Yeah, for us, for the customer experience, our customer is we're laser focused on our franchisees. Our franchisees today, we have 102 dealerships that are owned by these franchisees. And really what we wanted to give them was the most highly available solution for their technology platform to conduct their business every day, whether that's chasing down new sales opportunities, whether that's underwriting a deal, or whether that's servicing a vehicle. So really, as we see it in today's day and age, there's really zero tolerance for any type of downtime, and we wanted to deliver really the best experience for them.
And that includes disaster recovery as well. And I think this is a big thing that we're seeing lately. Is a lot of folks making bigger investments into disaster recovery. So what was your current DR solution prior to making the move over to Expedient?
Yeah, the first move we really had to make was really get to the cloud. And really what we've done to date is do a lift and shift. But we'll talk more today about really our journey and really along the application modernization stack. But the first thing was to get into a highly available data center, somebody that had a large national footprint. And then when we think about redundancy related to DR is a big word that means so many things to different people. And now I think the industry is really separated between business continuity and DR. 25 years ago, it was kind of merged as one. But when we think about DR, I think it's really important for technology leaders to think beyond DR and think about how I'm going to keep my operation up and running all the time. And I think the solution that Expedient delivers is something that's much more meaningful than just DR. It can be used in that day-to-day facet, but really is that legacy insurance policy, but for how we're leveraging it. And I'll talk through what that means and the time it took us to get there, which was extremely short. It's a solution that when we're talking about these newfound solutions around DR, these push button software solutions can help you run your business in a much more elegant way, almost as a backup data center.
So what were those challenges as you were making that move, right? You're going from this, legacy sort of, I have prod, I have DR, I fail over to that, and thinking more about it from a business continuity standpoint. So what were those challenges that you faced during that move?
Yeah, I think for any organization, as technologists, we always plan. And always then in hindsight, we look at things and we say, hey, why didn't we catch that, right? So I think the planning is the magic. I think also with the Expedient team, their pre-sales organization, their engineering team that helps you out, like pre, post, and during these types of migrations, and really helps that learning process of your staff. For us specifically, we did have some network challenges around this particular pieces, but I think really that what helped us get over the hurdle was while those were legacy kind of network designs and footprints that we had, really once we got into this cloud environment with Expedient, their kind of network engineering staff, the Palo Alto team, and those individuals really helped us get to the next level.
Yeah, and I want to just provide the big shout out to our service delivery team and our networking team. They are fantastic. We started our lives as an ISP 20 plus years ago, and that networking knowledge has carried all the way through. So it's something that's very, very common when it comes up, is that the networking is the hard part. Like putting a VM in some other place is not terribly difficult, but how do I make it talk to everything correctly is really where the challenge comes in, and our networking staff is incredible. So we supported you through that process, but in navigating those challenges, you also kind of mentioned that you made this sort of application modernization. So what kind of rolls along with that when you're talking about making this shift, not just in that lift and shift, but that modernization as well?
So to be clear on it, AJ, our strategy around application modernization, our journey is just beginning down that particular path. But when we think about our kind of what does our future state look like over the next 3 to 5 years and what we're going to build, simplification is the core premise for us. And that's really when we think about Expedient and we think about this DRaaS solution, this backup data center, and how we can move all the VPGs with push button technology and have them work seamlessly. For us, our franchisees, for the first time in history, when we think about our past DR solutions that either, years ago you had to move a bunch of tapes, or before you had to manage a bunch of physical infrastructure. Today, when we did our migration out to Cleveland, we actually took the approach of not just failing over there, but we ran from that center for a full 3 weeks to fully vet it out. And I was really proud of the team, and I was very satisfied, like on behalf of our franchisees, where they did not notice anything different. The process of the migration, the testing that we did in the bubble, it was all seamless to our customer, which that's the franchisee that we service every day.
So how do you bring that up to your peers in the C-suite? How do you bring that up to your franchisees of, we're going to fail over everything and run out of a secondary site for 3 weeks? How do you bring that up? What does that conversation sound like? Because this is something we've heard before of like, well, we have to test in a bubble because we're afraid of touching production. So effectively, you've touched all of production. Absolutely. So what does that conversation sound like, and what was your pitch for doing so?
Great question. So when we think about our business partners in our world, we have a dealer board, a franchisee committee. We have all these inputs. And to be quite honest, there was a lot of doubt or skepticism if we could pull this off, right? And when you really take a look at the solution that Expedient's offering, and you really understand the technologies that are being used and the backbone that Expedient can help you out on, even from a recovery standpoint, we made the decision as a senior leadership group, and with my CFO, with our CEO, and our head of operations, to say, you know what, we do need to fully vet this thing out. And it is about taking some risk, but it's about balanced risk. But in today's day and age, when we go back to the point of, there's really zero acceptance for any type of extended downtime, you really do need to push the envelope to that next level. And if you take the necessary steps with planning and then execution, and you phase that in, for us, we were able to get there in roughly 6 weeks of planning. We were able to get there. Our investment with how we measure time was 250 hours, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of time. And that included our testing time. So when we look at the project and now, we look at the benefits that we're reaping today and how we will repeat this process, it's only going to get leaner and faster. And I think the major talking track for me that I would promote if I was having this conversation again with another C-suite, it's all about speed and execution and balanced risk. But with this type of solution, speed is the primary driver, as well as the talent that you guys bring with your service delivery organization.
And that is huge because I'm going to use that, by the way. We've had this conversation. I actually had one earlier this year where someone was asking me about like, okay, well, if I'm doing DR, how do I handle things like email? Because we use Office 365. How do I handle that as part of my bubble test? And I said, well, you don't.
Exactly.
You're not failing over Office 365. Yeah, it's just there. So considering this is not just a disaster recovery scenario or solution, this is how do I enable faster resiliency? And how does this DR approach, I think, is what really enables this. So how does this compare to previous experiences with traditional models? Like everybody's doing everything in a bubble. Like, were you doing the sort of like, I call it fudging the test of I have to replicate things so things will work in the bubble, but in real life, that's not what would happen. Like how often were you guys doing that and how does this really compare?
Yeah, so I would say as technology leaders, depending on your starting point of your career, we all kind of fudged the envelope back in the day, right? There was just capabilities or capacity challenges and trying to merge that all together with real delivery every day for feature sets. Really, really relevant point that you bring up, AJ. The most important facts when we're thinking about this is, you do. I mean, there's no cookie cutter answer. Like this is not like gap accounting where everything's black and white. You have to, as a technology leader, figure out what's most important to you and then move past that very seamlessly. And for us, we thought about the systems that our franchisees use every day. We isolated those with the VPGs and the data associated with those. And we were able to package those up in a pick, package, ship, really push button approach and to get those over there. So, and let them again, run them. I cannot emphasize this point enough to encourage other technology leaders, other organizations to run from that alternate data center and have trust in that technology with your own processes, your own monitoring, so that you can actually prove that solution out and get the best ROI that you can.
I think that's a big thing for a lot of organizations is that it's very scary the first time, no doubt. I think one of the things that you find when you do that, and we have a number of other customers who do this as well, is that once they do that and they do this failover where they run out of their secondary site or what they would consider to be their secondary site for weeks or months, is that when they go to press the button, there's very little hesitation in doing so. Because they know what happens, because they do that failover on a regular basis. It's not, well, we're not really sure what really happens in a failure. We just know what happens in the bubble. And I think that helps elevate that up. And I think that one of the big things that we do, because we do disaster recovery as a service, is that it's different than what you're doing on-prem, where you're managing that secondary infrastructure, like you mentioned. Are there any misconceptions or common misconceptions about DRaaS that you think could be clarified based on your experience?
Yeah, I would add two comments here. Number one, frequency is everything that you do in life. I don't care what it is personally or professionally, but increasing frequency is going to help you build confidence and trust. The second thing I would say is once you build this relationship, trust your relationship with Expedient, meaning the piece that really helped me get up and over was during our planning process, we asked the question, how many times have you done this, this type of process? And the individual said over 200 times. And then when we got into the drill and there was a shift change, and it even kind of made me kind of pause for a moment, but the individual that came on the line, she was so familiar again with the standardized configuration and how to go about this process. And then with some of our remediation of very small issues, she was able to resolve those and follow up And again, she's done this process over 100 times. So again, back to the people that are in this DR as a service practice, they understand the processes very well. They're standardized back to the clients. They're able to scale those out and repeat those every day. So it's really like you have to treat it as an extension of your team. Don't try to take on too much up front, and trust in your partner to take on that load for you and really deliver the ultimate experience for whoever your end customer is.
And thank you. I'm just going to take this video. I'm just going to clip it. I'm just going to send it to them.
Again,
so whenever you're feeling down, just play what John said. You'll be great.
It's a partnership, and you have to build that with trust over time. But really, once you get in and you understand the technologies and really the operating premise for these solutions, it is light and day better. It is light and day faster at speed and execution. And the recovery mechanisms for these, with the redundancies that are built in, you will find out that this is an optimal solution for your organization.
So now that you've seen all of these, optimizations and improvements, what has this changed for you internally? How does this affect your team and your internal processes as part of your disaster recovery strategy?
Number one, it allows us to do a lot of other things that we need to get done in the organization. So, well, again, when we're talking about application modernization, this is going to be a big lift for us over the next 3 to 5 years. We have this solution in place. We know that we're going to conduct this every 90 days. We know we're going to run in our alternate data center. We have a high degree of confidence, and it's anything that you do on a repeated basis, you get better, faster, and it gets less expensive. So you're delivering more value back to your customers, more value back to your business, more value in terms of the ROI, because it's at a fraction of the cost. If we think about it, that time is our worst enemy. It's everything that we do in the technology side. And so even in my personal life, when I can get some time back, it's very meaningful. And then when we can deliver more value, really more time back to our business partners, we can scale faster as a result.
Did the success of this help move along other initiatives where they went, well, he made this decision to do this, that one worked out really, really well? Does that build confidence in the rest of the organization for other things that you want to do?
Wow, great question. So for myself over the last year, getting a big win here definitely does. And then having our senior leadership team take a look at this, see how it was executed, celebrating that success. But yeah, other large scale initiatives with our board, trying to get investments into other technologies and services that we want to do. Absolutely.
So what advice would you give to some other organizations who are looking at doing a similar migration or looking to make those levels of improvements to their DR processes?
Yeah, great question. I think we're all faced with, no matter what the initiative is, but the piece, when I think about the DR piece, I would first think about who I should partner with in the organization. I would pick a small team to start with, but then again, when you evaluate these solutions across the board, you really have to, for this type of piece, look at DR as a service. And when you pilot, evaluate, do those evaluations, I think what you're going to find again is speed and competency in this organization to be able to move quickly.
John, this has been fantastic, and our audience has some questions. So we're gonna toss it over to Q&A, and we'll see you here in a second. We are back. It's Q&A time. John is back with me now. Thanks, John, for joining me here. I honestly, like, going back through and rewatching that after we talked originally, it was interesting to hear all those things over again. And I think a lot of the questions that we have, and I want to thank everybody for asking questions during the registration process. A lot of those already got answered, but
I want to make sure that they get, really what they asked here. The first question that we got was, how do I do DR testing with no business impact? And you mentioned at the end that you do this big failover. So how do you do that? I think it's a really general question, but I think this is try to like, how do you get to that point of being able to do that with no business impact?
Yeah, AJ, again, I think it's a great question and I can articulate deeper on it. But I think an acronym that we're all familiar with is follow the people, process, and technology and the trust. But more importantly, we as leaders, I'll continue to emphasize this, as we build that trust and confidence in the organization, we have to take risks. So to say that you have no business risk, you'll never get over that hurdle. But I think the main drivers for this are, number one, have a good inventory of your systems. I mean, evaluate yourself, do a self check, a health check on yourself. Then number two, on your people. How well does your people know the environment? Like, what's their tenure? Number three, do you think you've seen every failure possible? Like what are those risks? Like, have you seen them all? And what remediations have you taken to make sure they don't happen again? And you get through all that, and then you get back to the planning and the technology and get out of that frame of thought of what DR was 10 years ago. And you can quickly get past that.
And I think this is also where we see bubble tests, obviously, is where like I'm doing my DR test and I'm doing it with no business impact. And that's great. But I think one of the things I would say is a good indicator of being able to do a full failover is how successful is your bubble test? Is it a like cram session to make sure that you get it in? Or is it something where you go, yeah, okay, it's bubble test time. We do the test and it's fine.
Right.
If you're at the point where I can test and it's fine, you're very, very likely to be able to do a full failover with no impact. If you have a lot of problems inside of your testing, every single time you do a test, you need to reevaluate what's going on there. I've worked at organizations where some parts of the org would just like turn stuff on and it'll just work. And other times it's like, okay, I have wave one, wave two, wave three, wave four in order to do a failover. Those are the sorts of things that if you would like to do this and show that you have the level of resiliency that you want to have, you need to make that investment in terms of time and maybe potentially even doing more tests than the one per year you're required to do to actually make that a real success consistently. And John, you mentioned it, like if you don't do something consistently, you lose the ability to do it over time. So doing more tests more often, I think, is also a way to do that where like, yeah, you're probably going to run into some bumps. Do it in a bubble until you can do it consistently in a bubble with no impact and it's you basically can do it in your sleep. Then you can expand out from there. One of the things we didn't really talk about, you mentioned the move to the cloud first, but there was some questions about cloud to private cloud failover or on-prem to cloud failover and like bandwidth requirements and window of data at risk. And I kind of want to ask this question just in terms of when you're thinking about the data that needs to be moved day in and day out from one side to the other, are you considering, hey, if we bring up this application here, here's how this fits in over here, and how did like new RPOs and RTOs sort of fit in when you're bringing on new things?
Yeah, I mean, the data aspect is our most worrisome piece that we think about every day, right? And again, I'll get back to understanding the environment, having a good inventory, being able to reconcile that. And again, like thinking through that RTO and RPO and what is your level of tolerance. For us, again, like every organization, to me, this is 2025. Like these bubble tests have to happen, but you know where your organization wants you to get to. You understand the level of expectations for your customers, for your organization, and for your team. And those bubble tests are meant to be practice drills, learn from them, but to remediate there and quickly move on. And for us, like I'll continue to emphasize this all day long. Repetition is everything for us. We're already planning our next. We're not just settling from where we were. It was a huge success, but we know, again, if we don't do this, it's kind of like we're in the budget season right now, right? None of us really like the budget and planning season. Maybe we should do it more often, but it's that once a year activity that never everyone gets accustomed to. But for us, our next one's, I think, January 25th. We've got it scheduled, we've got it slated, we know what our lessons learned were. We're on top of our game, and we're going to execute against that.
I think I've always wanted to do this as a DR test, which is a surprise DR test. Like, you don't get to plan for a month prior to executing your test. Like, one day you come in and there's a sheet of paper, or you get an email that morning that's like, your entire the rest of your day is canceled. You have to go execute the DR plan. And like, that's the sort of like, that's a real test to show, can you do this in the event of a real honest to goodness disaster? Everything just got ransomware. Tornado just hit the building. Like, you don't get to say, oh, well, did we get all that stuff in the protection group last time we rolled that out? I don't remember.
Right.
You don't have that opportunity.
Right.
So I think some of that is also to help kind of kick along and show that. I think one of the other things I would find is that, yes, this is something that's super important, but also from an investment standpoint, how do you justify that investment back up? We did a webinar last month about risk management and being able to show, like, if this were down, this is the impact to your business financially, number wise, dollar signs. And I think that's a bigger piece here, because your franchisees rely upon you. If you aren't doing your job, it's over, right?
Absolutely. And, again, I think it comes back to organizational maturity, taking the necessary steps. I think understanding your size and risk. But, even in my role here, where I'm just coming up on a year, we have socialized this surprise test. We've talked about it in previous organizations and as a CIO circle. I haven't come across one, at least in my circle, that's done it. But, again, thinking about where we need to get to, that needs to become more of a reality as we move forward. Absolutely. And again, I think with the right team and the partnership, those things can be done. So I'm glad you raised the topic. We should not fear that topic anymore, or just say that's not real. We should actually be thinking about that and pushing our teams forward in our organizations.
Yeah, I mean, the safety, I worked at a large company, and we were in a very large office building, and they kicked off a fire drill one day. It's like, oh, I have to go. I guess I was in the middle of a call, and I had to leave.
If that's acceptable, why is it not acceptable to our business? Because we're all going to face that challenge. We all know somebody that's been in that situation. So those are real life realities today.
Right. You need to effectively not a DR test. You need a DR fire drill.
Exactly.
So the next question I saw, and I thought this was super interesting, which was, I'm looking for alternate solutions. So somebody who's not thrilled with what they're doing today, why Expedient over other DIY DR solutions? And this person actually asked about a very specific one, but I wanted to kind of expand it out from a particular technology to why us over a DIY solution of putting it together yourself.
Yeah, it's another great question. I think for all of us, we owe it to our current organizations to do our due diligence, take a look at what the market research provides and what are those top products. We should do our homework on the pros and cons. But as I talk about a lot, there's no cookie cutter solution out there. But when you do take a look at some of the benefits then of the technology itself, all these components that you have an extension of your team with huge repeat behavior, I think that to me is a huge plus. And then the last piece is the backbone itself. And I think when we talk about RPO, that becomes a really relevant topic to benefit from that in the event something does happen and we're taking that risk and we need to move the organization forward. That again, process maturity, organizational maturity, partnership, all these have great leverage. But again, we should all do the due diligence. We should find out what's right for our organization. But I think when you look at those key factors, you're going to come to a much more modernized approach and a partnership with Expedient.
Yeah, I think you talked about this in the original conversation we had, was being able to free up your time, being able to leverage it elsewhere. DR is something that we all need to do. We all have to protect our organizations. That's why we have the jobs that we have. but being able to leverage a additional set of hands or even multiple sets of hands. You even mentioned during the shift change, being able to know that like this person who's leaving is being replaced on shift by somebody else who also knows what they're doing, right? That level of like, I know in a lot of organizations you might have one engineer who's really good, who's really got this locked in, but if you were to go to the person who's supposed to back them up, you have a distinct wins over replacement, to use a sports term, drop that happens there. And for us, that's not the case because we do this all the time. It's our jobs. So
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing here for at least us over a true DIY solution is you don't have to do it yourself. You can have help. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to accept help. And being able to do that allows you to do more because your hands aren't in every single thing. I think we have one last question here. And this last question is, what did you see from Expedient that confirmed your trust that they could pull this off? I think this is the biggest thing that we have, is that our customers have to trust us. So what did you see from us that confirmed that?
Yeah. So when over the years, when we think about all these different types of DR processes, these solutions that have come to breed, and whether you're managing a small, medium, or large organization, I I I gave that a lot of thought. And when again I think about the Expedient ecosystem and the team and the partnership, I can't emphasize enough. It's if anyone today is just entrusting in technology, you're wrong. It takes people, process, and technology to be able to pull that off. And when you engage in these conversations, let's put pre-sales off to the side and let's really talk about your post support and where you need to get to. This team is an extension of your staff. And look, for myself, I've managed a small group. I've been in a startup. I've been in a medium-sized organization. I've managed 1,000 people. Today, for us, for our size and our people, where we want to focus our time and energy on moving the needle forward, I can't emphasize enough to, as a technology leader, partner with somebody. I hope it's your CFO, your head of finance, because they will help get this over with you. You can't ever do this single-handedly. You get that partnership going, you talk to this organization, and you'll be able to build that trust and confidence that you need.
And we appreciate all of your time, John, through this process. We appreciate you as a customer. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This has been a fantastic conversation. John, if I'm ever out in Indianapolis, we need to meet up and have a little dinner or something. But this is something I think I want this to be a hopeful point for a lot of folks, that there is an option to do better, that there is an opportunity to do more than what you're doing today. And if you want to learn more, there'll be a QR code right about here very soon, where you can schedule time to talk to us and match what John's doing. Let's help you get to where you want to be. I want to thank everybody for your time on the call today. I want to thank John again for his time, and we will see you next month. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, AJ. I'll see you guys.
Absolutely.